A divorced rancher inherits an abandoned old cabin and old dog, trudging through the mountain snow as the weathered hound scratches frantically at the rotting floorboards beneath their feet. The townspeople below whisper cruel jokes about the broken man's pathetic inheritance. A hermit's hovel and a dying mutt. They assume he'll waste away in that forgotten place, another failure swallowed by the wilderness. But watching from the saloon's shadows, a well-dressed stranger with calculating eyes sees something different in the rancher's defeat. The bounty hunter knows secrets about that mountain cabin and the fortune buried within its walls. When the old dog's persistent digging finally breaks through, what emerges will either save the rancher's shattered life or destroy him completely. Will the discovery of $5 million in hidden treasure bring redemption or unleash the dangerous forces that killed the cabin's previous owner? Before we continue, comment where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will publish a story there. Samuel Hargrove's horse stumbled through the last stretch of mountain snow, its breath forming white clouds in the bitter Colorado air. The divorce papers in his saddlebag had turned his life to ash. His ranch was gone, his wife was gone, everything he'd built over 15 years had crumbled in a courtroom. The cabin appeared through the pine trees like a relic from another world. Uncle Jeremiah's final gift to his failure of a nephew. Samuel dismounted and tied his horse to a weathered post. The structure leaned slightly to the left, its logs darkened by decades of mountain weather. A low growl came from inside. Samuel pushed open the creaking door. Yellow eyes stared back at him from the shadows. The German shepherd was old, its muzzle gray with age, but its stance remained alert. The dog studied Samuel with an intelligence that seemed almost human. "Easy there," Samuel extended his hand slowly. "Guess we're both stuck with this place." The dog sniffed his fingers, then backed away to a corner where a worn blanket lay beside empty food bowls. Samuel noticed scratches in the wooden floor around the animal's makeshift bed. Deep gouges, as if the dog had been digging at the boards for months. Samuel explored the sparse interior. 2 rooms, a stone fireplace, and furniture that had seen better decades. But something felt wrong. The door was reinforced with iron brackets. The windows had been fitted with shutters that looked more like barricades. Hidden compartments were built into the walls, most of them empty. On the mantel, he found a faded photograph of Uncle Jeremiah with the dog. Both looked younger, happier. A leather journal sat beside it, most pages torn out. The remaining entries were cryptic notes about weather patterns and supply runs to town. The dog whimpered and scratched at the floorboards again. Samuel needed supplies. The ride to Copper Ridge took an hour through winding mountain paths. The town bustled with miners, ranchers, and traders. Samuel tied his horse outside the general store and stepped onto the wooden sidewalk. Conversations stopped. Eyes followed him through the dusty street. "That's Hargrove," someone whispered. "Lost everything to that woman. Heard he's living in crazy Jeremiah's cabin now. From cattle baron to hermit in 6 months." Samuel kept his head down and entered the store. The proprietor, a thin man with wire spectacles, looked up from his ledger. "Samuel Hargrove, heard you inherited old Jeremiah's place." The man's tone carried no warmth. "That'll be cash only for you, I'm afraid." Samuel counted out coins for basic supplies. Coffee, dried beans, lamp oil. The money wouldn't last long. Outside, more whispers followed him to his horse. "Poor bastard, doesn't know what he's gotten into. That cabin's cursed. Jeremiah went mad up there." A well-dressed stranger approached from across the street. Tall, confident, with expensive boots and a tailored coat that didn't belong in mining country. His smile was too perfect for the rough frontier town. "Samuel Hargrove." The man extended a gloved hand. "Wesley Boone. I'm a bounty hunter. Been tracking some associates of your uncle." Samuel shook the offered hand. "Associates? Jeremiah was a hermit." "Was he?" Wesley's eyes glinted with hidden knowledge. "Man doesn't build a fortress in the mountains without enemies. Your uncle had interesting friends, dangerous friends." Before Samuel could respond, a woman's voice cut through the conversation. "Mr. Boone." Sheriff Eleanor Stowe approached with measured steps. Mid-30s, sharp-eyed, with a badge that looked earned rather than appointed. Still asking questions about dead men? Wesley tipped his hat. Just being thorough, Sheriff. Eleanor turned to Samuel. Word of advice. Strangers asking about your business usually want something you don't want to give. She walked away, but Samuel caught her glance back at Wesley. Something passed between them. Recognition. Warning. Wesley's smile never wavered. Your uncle left quite a legacy up there. Hope you're prepared for what comes with it. The ride back to the cabin felt longer. Samuel's mind churned with questions. What associates? What legacy? The journal's missing pages suddenly seemed more significant. Inside the cabin, the dog was scratching at the floorboards again. The scratches had grown deeper, more frantic. Samuel knelt beside the animal and ran his fingers along the gouges. The wood sounded hollow. He found a crowbar in Jeremiah's tool shed. The dog watched intently as Samuel worked the iron bar under the damaged boards. The wood splintered and gave way. Below lay a hidden space. Samuel's lamp illuminated rough-hewn stairs, descending into darkness. The dog whimpered and pawed at the opening. What did you find, boy? The stairs creaked under Samuel's weight. The engraving tables, racks of specialized papers, and everywhere, stacks upon stacks of currency. Samuel's hands trembled as he picked up a $20 bill. The craftsmanship was flawless. Perfect in every detail, except for one thing. It was completely fake. Uncle Jeremiah hadn't been a hermit. He'd been a counterfeiter. The dog descended the stairs and sat beside a massive iron safe. Its eyes never left Samuel's face, as if waiting for him to understand something crucial. Samuel found more journals hidden behind the printing equipment, pages and pages of detailed records, names, dates, territories. Uncle Jeremiah hadn't just been printing money. He'd been running the most sophisticated counterfeiting operation in the American West. The realization hit like a physical blow. Samuel hadn't inherited poverty. He'd inherited a criminal empire worth millions. And somewhere in the darkness above, Wesley Boone's questions took on a much more dangerous meaning. Samuel's lamp cast dancing shadows across the underground chamber. Stacks of counterfeit currency rose like monuments to his uncle's deception. $20 bills, $50 bills, $100 certificates, each one crafted with impossible precision. The dog moved to the iron safe and pawed at its surface. 3 scratches, then 2, then 1. A pattern. Samuel found the combination written in Jeremiah's cramped handwriting on a scrap of paper tucked behind an engraving plate. The safe opened with a heavy click. Inside lay the truth. Leather-bound journals filled every inch of space. Samuel pulled out the first volume and opened it to a random page. Names, addresses, payment schedules. A network spanning from Denver to San Francisco. The Mountain Ghost, Samuel read aloud from the journal's title page. Operations Manual. The dog's ears perked up at the words. It moved to a wooden crate and knocked it over with its snout. More equipment spilled out. Magnifying glasses, chemical bottles, paper samples from banks across the territory. Samuel flipped through pages of meticulous records. Uncle Jeremiah hadn't just been counterfeiting. He'd been studying every banknote, every security feature, every flaw in the government's printing process. The man had turned forgery into a science. One journal contained customer lists, politicians who needed untraceable funds, businessmen who wanted to manipulate currency flows, criminal organizations seeking to flood markets with fake money. The scope staggered Samuel. This wasn't some backwoods operation. This was a criminal empire that had been influencing the economy of the entire western frontier. The dog brought Samuel another journal. This one was different. Personal entries mixed with operational notes. They found out about the Phoenix job, Jeremiah had written. Carson suspects I kept evidence. Need to prepare. Made it back to the cabin. The dog knows something's wrong. He's been trained for this. The final entry was dated 3 weeks before Jeremiah's death. If something happens to me, the dog will show Samuel everything. Remy knows where all the evidence is hidden. Trust the dog. Trust no one else. Samuel looked at the German shepherd with new understanding. Your name is Remy. The dog's tail wagged once. It walked to a corner of the chamber and scratched at a loose stone. Behind it, another hiding place revealed maps of the surrounding mountains. Red X marks dotted the terrain, dozens of them. More hiding spots, more evidence, more money. Remy returned to the main chamber and picked up something in his mouth, a $20 bill. He carried it to Samuel and dropped it at his feet. Then he walked to a stack of genuine currency from the safe and picked up another bill. The dog placed both bills side by side. Samuel examined them under the magnifying glass. The counterfeit was perfect. Every line, every detail, every security feature matched the original. Only someone with extensive training could tell the difference. You can identify real from fake, Samuel whispered. Remy wagged his tail and moved to the stairs. He climbed halfway up, then looked back expectantly. Samuel followed the dog to the main cabin. Remy went to the window and growled low in his throat. Through the glass, Samuel saw a rider approaching through the trees. Wesley Boone. The bounty hunter dismounted and tied his horse to the same post Samuel had used. Remy's growl deepened, but the dog remained perfectly still. Trained silence. Wesley knocked on the door. Samuel, just wanted to check on you. Mountain life can be lonely. Samuel opened the door but didn't invite Wesley inside. I'm managing fine. Good to hear. Wesley's eyes scanned the cabin interior. Your uncle left you well set up. Heard you were in town buying supplies with cash. Jeremiah left a small inheritance. Must have been larger than people thought. Wesley's smile was predatory. Man doesn't live as a hermit without reasons, usually involves money. Remy remained motionless in the corner, but Samuel noticed the dog's muscles were tense, ready. What do you really want? Samuel asked. Information about your uncle's business partners, men who might come looking for things he left behind. Samuel's blood chilled. What kind of things? The kind that get people killed. Wesley stepped closer. Your uncle wasn't just a hermit, Samuel. He was connected to dangerous people, people who don't forget debts. The bounty hunter's gaze swept the cabin again. He was looking for something specific. If anyone comes asking about your uncle's property, you call for me immediately. Wesley had been a counterfeiter. He'd been part of something bigger, something that had gotten him killed. Samuel found references to the Council of Five, criminal leaders who controlled counterfeiting operations across multiple territories. Jeremiah's notes suggested he'd been gathering evidence against them, evidence that was now Samuel's responsibility. Remy brought him another journal. This one contained detailed instructions for operating the printing equipment, step-by-step processes for creating perfect counterfeits. Samuel's hands moved over the pages. His experience with precise ranch bookkeeping and cattle breeding records had trained him for exactly this kind of detailed work. The technical aspects made sense to him. He looked at the fortune surrounding him. $5 million in perfect counterfeit currency, equipment worth thousands more, a network of contacts who could move the money anywhere in the territory. His failed ranch had left him with debts he couldn't pay. His divorce had stripped away everything he'd built. But now he had the tools to rebuild his life. All he had to do was become a criminal. Remy sat beside the printing press and watched Samuel with intelligent eyes. The dog knew what choice his new master was facing. Samuel picked up one of the counterfeit 20s. Perfect craftsmanship, undetectable by normal examination. Just one small job, just enough to pay his debts and get back on his feet. Samuel stared at the counterfeit 20 in his hands for 3 days before making his decision. His creditors expected payment within the week. The bank threatened foreclosure on what little property remained in his name. Honor wouldn't feed him through the winter. He selected $500 in Uncle Jeremiah's perfect counterfeits. Just enough to buy time, just enough to think of a better solution. Remy watched from the corner as Samuel practiced with the printing equipment. The dog's training became apparent quickly. When Samuel made mistakes with the ink mixture, Remy would growl softly. When the paper alignment was correct, the dog remained silent. "You're teaching me," Samuel realized. The German Shepherd moved to a drawer and nosed it open. Inside lay detailed notes in Jeremiah's handwriting about contact procedures, names of people who could move currency without questions. Marcus Delano topped the list, a businessman in Denver who ran legitimate trading companies as cover for currency exchange. Jeremiah's notes described him as smooth, reliable, and dangerous when crossed. Samuel rode to Denver with 500 in counterfeits hidden in his saddlebag. Remy came along, trotting beside the horse with the steady pace of an animal accustomed to long journeys. Marcus Delano operated from a well-appointed office above a trading post. Expensive furniture, imported carpets, and a view of the bustling street below. He was younger than Samuel expected, maybe 40, with manicured hands and clothes that cost more than most men earned in a month. Samuel Hargrove. Marcus rose from behind a mahogany desk. Jeremiah mentioned he had a nephew. Sorry for your loss. Samuel placed the counterfeit bills on the desk. I need these converted to legitimate currency, small amounts only. Marcus examined the bills with a jeweler's loupe. His eyebrows rose. Remarkable work. Your uncle's craftsmanship was legendary. He looked up at Samuel. You didn't make these. Does it matter? It matters because continuing Jeremiah's work requires skill, discretion, and understanding of the risks involved. Marcus returned the bills. This is a $500 test. If you're serious about the business, we'll discuss larger arrangements. Samuel pocketed 400 in genuine currency and left the remaining 100 as Marcus's fee. The transaction took less than 10 minutes. On the ride home, Remy suddenly stopped and growled toward a stand of trees. Samuel saw movement in the shadows. Someone was watching. They reached the cabin without incident, but Samuel noticed fresh horse tracks around the property. Multiple riders. Wesley Boone wasn't working alone. Inside the underground chamber, Samuel studied more of Jeremiah's journals. References to the Council of Five appeared frequently. 5 criminal leaders who controlled counterfeiting territories across the West. Jeremiah's notes suggested growing tension within the organization. Carson thinks I'm skimming profits, one entry read. Phoenix wants my mountain territory. They're planning something. Later entries grew more paranoid. Found poison in my coffee. Someone tried to break into the cabin while I was in town. The dog saved my life today. The final entries revealed Jeremiah's desperate plan. He'd been gathering evidence against the council members, locations of their operations, records of their crimes, proof of murders they'd committed to maintain control. Evidence hidden throughout the mountains in locations only Remy knew. Samuel spent the following week learning the counterfeiting process. His ranching background proved invaluable. Years of maintaining precise breeding records and managing complex cattle transactions had trained him for the detailed work required. The chemistry fascinated him. Mixing inks to match government specifications, treating paper to achieve the correct texture and weight, operating the printing presses with the precision needed for perfect registration. Remy assisted throughout, alerting Samuel to mistakes before they became costly errors. The dog's training was extraordinary. He could detect the approach of strangers from a mile away, distinguish between different types of law enforcement badges by scent, and somehow sense when currency was genuine or counterfeit. Marcus returned after 2 weeks with a proposition.
What kind of parties? The kind that made your uncle wealthy and eventually got him killed. Marcus's tone remained casual, but his eyes were calculating.
The Council of Five controlled counterfeiting from here to California. They're missing their Mountain Territory specialist. Samuel felt the weight of Jeremiah's journals hidden below his feet. And they want me to fill that role? They want someone to fill that role. Whether it's you or someone else depends on your level of cooperation. The threat was politely delivered but unmistakable. Samuel could join the council's operation willingly, or be eliminated as a potential witness to their activities. That evening, Samuel found Sheriff Eleanor Stowe waiting by the cabin when he returned from checking his horse. "We need to talk," she said. Inside, Eleanor examined the cabin's reinforced features with professional interest. Your uncle was paranoid for good reasons. She placed several counterfeit bills on the table. Perfect reproductions that Samuel recognized from his own recent work. These appeared in circulation 3 towns over, Eleanor said. Same craftsmanship as bills that surfaced during your uncle's lifetime. Samuel remained silent. "I know you're continuing his work," Eleanor continued. "Question is whether you're doing it by choice or because someone's forcing your hand." She leaned forward. "Help us catch the people who killed Jeremiah, and we'll make sure you don't face charges for what you've already done." Samuel stared at the counterfeit bills. "Us? Wesley Boone isn't just a bounty hunter. He's a federal agent. So am I." The cabin suddenly felt smaller. Remy had been watching Eleanor throughout the conversation, but showed none of the tension he'd displayed around Wesley. "Your uncle was gathering evidence against the Council of Five when they murdered him," Eleanor said. "We think that evidence still exists. We think you can help us find it." Samuel looked down at Remy. The dog's intelligent eyes seemed to hold answers to questions Samuel was only beginning to understand. Outside, horses approached through the darkness, multiple riders moving with purpose toward the cabin. Marcus Delano had returned with friends. Eleanor moved to the window and peered through the reinforced shutters. 4 riders approached the cabin in formation. Professional, organized, dangerous. "Back room, now," she whispered. Samuel followed her away from the main room as Remy positioned himself by the door. The dog's training kicked in automatically, alert, but silent. Marcus's voice carried through the night air. "Samuel, we need to discuss business arrangements." Eleanor drew a small revolver from beneath her coat. "Wesley's 20 minutes out. We need to stall them. What do they want? Proof that you're willing to join their operation, or proof that you need to be eliminated?" Samuel's mind raced through options. The underground chamber held evidence that could destroy the Council of Five, but it also contained enough counterfeit currency to hang him for treason. Marcus knocked on the door. "Samuel, I have associates who'd like to meet you." Eleanor motioned for Samuel to answer while she remained hidden. Samuel opened the door, but kept the chain latch engaged. Marcus stood with 3 other men, well-dressed, well-armed, and clearly accustomed to getting what they wanted. "Gentlemen, this is Jeremiah's nephew," Marcus said. "Samuel, meet the remaining members of the Council of Five." The tallest man stepped forward, gray-bearded, with scars across his knuckles and eyes that had seen too much killing. "Phoenix Carson. I controlled operations with your uncle for 15 years. The second man was younger, nervous energy radiating from his compact frame. "Tommy Brennan, Phoenix territory is mine now." The third remained silent, but his presence dominated the group. Massive shoulders, hands that could crush bone, and the patient stillness of a predator. "That's Dutch Kowalski," Marcus explained. "He handles problems." Phoenix studied the cabin's reinforced features. "Your uncle built quite a fortress here. Paranoid man. Smart, but paranoid." "What do you want?" Samuel asked. Continuation of business relationships, Phoenix replied. Jeremiah's mountain territory produced the finest counterfeits in the West. We need that operation restored. Marcus smiled with practiced charm. Think of it as inheriting the family business. Samuel's gaze shifted between the four men. Each represented a different aspect of the criminal organization. Marcus handled transactions. Phoenix provided leadership. Tommy managed territories. Dutch eliminated obstacles. I need time to consider. Phoenix's patience evaporated. Time is what got your uncle killed. He thought he could gather evidence against us, use it as leverage for independence. The confession hung in the night air. These men had murdered Jeremiah. Your uncle forgot that the council doesn't negotiate, Phoenix continued. We expand or we eliminate. There's no middle ground. Dutch finally spoke, his voice like grinding stone. The old man kept records. Detailed records. We need to know where they are. Eleanor pressed against the back room wall, listening to every word. Evidence of conspiracy and murder being freely admitted. Samuel felt Remy brush against his leg. The dog was positioning himself for something. I don't know about any records, Samuel lied. Marcus laughed. Samuel, we've been watching you. We know you found Jeremiah's operation. We know you've been practicing with his equipment. We know you converted currency through my contacts in Denver. The net was tightening. They'd been monitoring his every move since inheriting the cabin. Phoenix pulled out a gold pocket watch. You have 1 minute to decide. Join down at Remy. The dog's eyes held intelligence and determination. Whatever Jeremiah had trained him for, this moment was part of it. I'll need to see the underground workshop, Samuel said. Excellent choice, Marcus replied. Samuel unlatched the door and led the four men inside. Remy followed, his movements precise and purposeful. In the main room, Samuel moved the damaged floorboards aside to reveal the hidden stairs. Everything's down there. The council members descended into the chamber with eager anticipation. Samuel followed, watching Remy's behavior carefully. Phoenix whistled at the sight of the printing equipment. Beautiful setup. Your uncle was an artist. Tommy examined the stacks of counterfeit currency. Millions of dollars worth, perfect craftsmanship. Dutch moved toward the safe, which Samuel had left open. The journals containing evidence against the council lay in plain sight. But Remy had positioned himself between Dutch and the safe. Eleanor appeared at the top of the stairs, her federal badge visible on her chest. U.S. Treasury agents, you're all under arrest. The chamber erupted into chaos. Phoenix dove for cover behind the printing press. Tommy scrambled toward the stairs. Marcus reached for the revolver inside his coat. Dutch lunged for the safe and the incriminating evidence. Remy moved with lightning precision. The dog's training revealed itself fully as he knocked Dutch off balance and sent the big man sprawling across the stone floor. Samuel grabbed the journals from the safe as Eleanor descended the stairs with her weapon drawn. Nobody moves, she commanded. Wesley Boone appeared behind her, followed by 3 more federal agents. Phoenix emerged from behind the printing press with his hands raised. This is a setup. This is justice, Eleanor replied. We have recordings of your confession to murdering Jeremiah Hargrove. We have documented evidence of your counterfeiting operation. We have witnesses to your conspiracy charges. Wesley moved to secure the weapons while other agents handcuffed the prisoners. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Samuel, you have no idea what you've done. The council has associates everywhere. People who don't forgive betrayal. The council's finished, Wesley said. We've been building this case for 3 years. Tonight's confessions complete the prosecution. Samuel looked around the underground chamber that had changed his life. The printing equipment, the counterfeit currency, the evidence that would destroy a criminal organization spanning multiple territories. Remy sat beside him, the dog's mission finally complete. Eleanor approached Samuel as the prisoners were led upstairs. There's still the matter of your own counterfeiting activities. Samuel nodded. He'd accepted that consequence when he chose to help expose his uncle's murderers. However, Eleanor continued. Cooperation with federal agents in exposing major criminal enterprises often results in reduced charges, sometimes eliminated charges. Outside, the sound of horses and wagons indicated more federal agents arriving to secure the scene. Samuel's inheritance had transformed from criminal empire to instrument of justice. His uncle's final plan was working exactly as intended. The federal agents secured the Council of Five and reinforced wagons for transport to Denver. Samuel watched from the cabin porch as his uncle's murderers disappeared into the mountain darkness. Justice felt hollow after months of deception and danger. Wesley approached with a leather portfolio under his arm. The real work starts now. Inside the cabin, Eleanor spread maps across Jeremiah's dining table. Red X marks dotted the mountain terrain in dozens of locations. Evidence caches that only Remy could find. Your uncle spent 15 years documenting the council's crimes, Eleanor explained. Murder, extortion, territorial wars, government corruption, everything needed to dismantle their entire network. Samuel studied the maps. Some locations were miles away through treacherous mountain passes. Others lay hidden in caves, abandoned mines, and forgotten homesteads. How many people were part of this organization? Wesley opened his portfolio and pulled out photographs. Dozens of faces stared back at Samuel. The Council of Five controlled over 200 associates across 6 territories. Eliminating the leadership is only the beginning. Remy moved to the maps and placed his paw on a location near Copper Ridge, his first destination. The next morning, Samuel saddled his horse while federal agents prepared for the evidence-gathering mission. Remy trotted ahead on the mountain trail, his steps confident despite his advanced age. The first cache lay hidden behind a false wall in an abandoned prospector's cabin. Inside, Jeremiah had stored detailed records of Phoenix Carson's territorial expansion. Names, dates, methods used to eliminate competition. Eleanor photographed every document while Wesley cataloged the evidence. This connects Carson to 12 murders across Colorado and Wyoming. Remy led them to the second location by afternoon. A hollowed-out tree stump contained Marcus Delano's financial records, bank accounts, money transfers, and currency conversion logs spanning 5 years. Marcus laundered over $3 million through legitimate businesses, Samuel observed, recognizing patterns from his ranching bookkeeping experience. The third cache proved most damaging. Hidden in a cave system 2 hours north, Jeremiah had documented Dutch Kowalski's enforcement activities. Photographs of crime scenes, witness statements, and detailed accounts of intimidation tactics. Wesley's face darkened as he examined the materials. Dutch killed 17 people that we know of. These records will add dozens more victims to the count. Over 3 days, Remy guided the federal team to 11 different locations. Each cache contained specific evidence against council members and their associates. Jeremiah's methodical documentation painted a complete picture of the criminal network. Samuel's respect for his uncle grew with each discovery. The man hadn't just been gathering random information. He'd been building an airtight legal case that would survive any courtroom challenge. On the 4th morning, Eleanor received a telegram from Denver. The council members were talking, desperate to negotiate reduced sentences by providing information about their organization. They're revealing associate names, territorial boundaries, and operational methods, she told Samuel. Your uncle's evidence is confirming everything they tell us. Wesley studied the remaining locations on Jeremiah's map. 3 more caches to investigate. These appear to be the most remote and heavily protected. The 5th cache required a full day's ride into high mountain country. Hidden beneath a seemingly natural rock formation, Jeremiah had stored his most sensitive evidence, government corruption files that implicated territorial officials, federal employees, and military personnel. This explains how the council operated with impunity for so long, Eleanor said, examining documents that revealed bribed judges and purchased law enforcement positions. Samuel felt the weight of his uncle's sacrifice. Jeremiah had lived as a hermit, not from choice, but from necessity. Gathering this evidence had required years of isolation and constant danger. The sixth cache lay in an abandoned silver mine 30 miles from the cabin. Remy's age showed during the difficult climb, but his determination never wavered. Inside the mine, Jeremiah had hidden the most damaging evidence of all. Detailed records of the council's plan to flood the Western economy with counterfeit currency, not just individual transactions, but a systematic effort to destabilize territorial finances and manipulate political outcomes. Wesley whistled as he examined the documents. They were planning to print $50 million in counterfeit currency over the next 2 years, enough to crash the entire Western banking system. Samuel understood the scope now. This wasn't just about criminal profits. The Council of Five had been attempting to control the economic foundation of American expansion. The final cache location appeared on a mountain peak visible from the cabin. Remy's energy returned as they approached familiar territory. The dog's tail wagged with anticipation. Hidden in a natural cave system, Jeremiah's final evidence cache contained personal letters between council members discussing his murder, detailed plans, timing, and methods, written proof of premeditated conspiracy. Eleanor held up a letter in Phoenix Carson's handwriting. The old man knows too much. Dutch will handle the problem permanently next week. Another letter from Marcus Delano outlined the plan to recruit Samuel after Jeremiah's death. The nephew potential. If he refuses cooperation, eliminate him and find another candidate. Samuel realized how close he'd come to sharing his uncle's fate. Only Jeremiah's careful planning and Remy's loyalty had kept him alive long enough for the federal agents to act. Wesley gathered the final evidence with satisfaction. 18 different locations, thousands of documents, and complete records spanning 15 years. The Council of Five's network is finished. Back at the cabin, Eleanor tallied the evidence collected over 4 days. Bank records, territorial maps, murder documentation, government corruption files, and personal communications between criminal leaders. This represents the largest counterfeiting investigation in federal history, she told Samuel. Your uncle's work will result in over 200 arrests across 6 territories. Samuel looked at Remy, who lay exhausted by the fireplace. The dog's mission was complete. 15 years of training and loyalty had led to this moment. What happens now? Wesley closed his portfolio. Now we prepare for the largest criminal trial the Western territories have ever seen. The federal courthouse in Denver buzzed with activity as the largest criminal trial in Western history began. Samuel sat in the witness gallery, watching Phoenix Carson and the remaining council members face justice for 15 years of crimes. Eleanor presented evidence methodically: bank records, murder documentation, territorial maps, and personal correspondence between criminal leaders. Jeremiah's meticulous work provided prosecutors with an unbreakable case. Phoenix Carson received life imprisonment for conspiracy and murder. Marcus Delano got 25 years for money laundering and racketeering. Tommy Brennan faced 15 years for territorial enforcement crimes. Dutch Kowalski was sentenced to hang for 17 confirmed murders. The associate arrests followed quickly. 200 criminal operatives across 6 territories found themselves facing federal charges based on Jeremiah's documented evidence. The entire counterfeiting network collapsed within months. Samuel testified about discovering his uncle's operation and cooperating with federal agents. The judge praised his assistance and officially dismissed all charges related to his brief counterfeiting activities. Your cooperation prevented significant economic damage and brought dangerous criminals to justice, the judge declared. This court recognizes your service to federal law enforcement. Wesley approached Samuel outside the courthouse after the final verdicts. The Treasury Department has a proposition for you. They walked to a nearby cafe where Eleanor waited with official documents. Your technical skills and experience with counterfeiting methods make you valuable, Eleanor explained. Banks across the territory need consultants who can identify sophisticated forgeries. Samuel examined the contract that the Treasury Department offered, substantial compensation for his expertise in detecting counterfeit currency. Legitimate work using knowledge gained from criminal inheritance. What about the cabin? Wesley smiled. The property belongs to you, free and clear. Federal investigation confirmed Jeremiah purchased it with legitimate funds before his counterfeiting activities began. Samuel signed the consulting contract. His new career would help banks protect themselves against the same crimes his uncle had committed. 6 months later, Samuel sat on the cabin porch watching Remy chase butterflies in the mountain meadow. The old dog moved slowly, but with obvious contentment. His dangerous work was finished. The cabin had been renovated with Samuel's consulting income. Reinforced features remained for security, but the interior now reflected comfort rather than paranoia. Books, comfortable furniture, and photographs of Samuel's new life replaced the sparse survivalist setup. Eleanor visited regularly, her federal marshal duties bringing her through the mountain territory frequently. Their professional relationship had evolved into something deeper during the long months of evidence gathering and trial preparation. Samuel's consulting business thrived. Banks from Colorado to California sought his expertise in identifying sophisticated counterfeits. His unique knowledge of criminal techniques made him invaluable in protecting legitimate currency systems. Remy's health improved with peaceful retirement. Regular meals, comfortable sleeping arrangements, and freedom from constant vigilance restored the dog's vitality. He remained alert and intelligent, but the desperate edge of his mountain survival training had softened. Wesley stopped by during his travels between federal assignments. The three of them had formed an unlikely friendship forged through shared danger and mutual respect. "Any word from the remaining associates?" Samuel asked during Wesley's latest visit. "The network's completely dismantled," Wesley reported. 200 convictions, millions in counterfeit currency destroyed, and territorial counterfeiting operations eliminated. Eleanor brought news of the council members' prison sentences. Phoenix Carson had died in federal custody, reportedly from natural causes. Marcus Delano was cooperating with authorities, hoping for reduced sentence consideration. Dutch Kowalski's execution had been carried out the previous month. Samuel felt no satisfaction from their fates. Justice had been served, but it couldn't return the years his uncle had lost to isolation and fear. The consulting work provided intellectual satisfaction beyond financial rewards. Samuel's technical expertise helped banks implement new security features that made counterfeiting significantly more difficult. His reputation spread throughout the territory. The man who had inherited a criminal empire and used it to destroy an entire network of counterfeiters became a legend in law enforcement circles. One evening, as autumn colors painted the mountain landscape, Samuel received an unexpected visitor. A young woman arrived on horseback, carrying official documents and a nervous expression. "Mr. Hargrove, I'm Sarah Mitchell from the Denver Post. I'm writing a story about your uncle's investigation and your cooperation with federal agents." Samuel invited her inside for coffee, while Remy studied the newcomer with polite interest. "People want to know how a failed rancher became the man who brought down the Council of Five," Sarah explained. Samuel considered his response carefully. "My uncle did the real work. I just helped finish what he started. But you chose to cooperate with federal agents instead of continuing his criminal activities. That choice made all the difference." Samuel looked through the window at the peaceful mountain valley. Some inheritances come with responsibilities. Mine came with the chance to do something right. Sarah's article appeared in newspapers across the Western Territories. The story of the divorced rancher who inherited a criminal empire and used it for justice captured public imagination. Letters arrived from banks, law enforcement agencies, and government officials praising Samuel's actions. Some contained job offers. Others requested his expertise for specific cases. Samuel established the Jeremiah Hargrove Foundation, using money from his consulting work to support families of crime victims. His uncle's legacy would help heal some of the damage the Council of Five had caused. As winter approached, Samuel and Remy settled into their peaceful routine. The dog spent his days exploring familiar mountain trails, while Samuel worked on cases sent by mail from across the territory. Eleanor accepted a permanent position as federal marshal for the Colorado Territory, allowing her to maintain residence near the cabin. Their relationship deepened into love, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. One snowy evening, as Samuel sat by the fireplace working on a particularly challenging case, Remy brought him an envelope that had been slipped under the door. Inside, a simple message, written in elegant script. "Thank you for finishing what I started. The mountains are peaceful now. J.H." Samuel smiled and scratched Remy's ears. His uncle's spirit lived on in the justice they had achieved together. Outside, snow fell gently on the mountain cabin, where a failed rancher had found redemption and an old dog had completed his final mission.